There are so many amazing characters in the Harry Potter series. The trio, Albus Dumbledore, Sirius Black, Severus Snape, Neville Longbottom, Remus Lupin, Fred and George, and many others, all of whom are loads of people's favorite character.
Wicked.
However, today we're not going to focus on them.
You have no business here.
Instead, we're going to focus on those characters who most likely are not anybody's favorite character.
What?
Welcome to Movie Flame. I'm Morgan Ross, and today we're going to shine the light on the most underrated people in the 7 books. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking and sharing. It will greatly help to grow and sustain the channel. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and you can also follow me on all of my other social media pages, all of which are linked down below, and all of which house similar content that I make here on this channel. Now that I've said that, let's get into it. We're gonna start off with the grandmother of Neville Longbottom, Augusta Longbottom. This woman is a straight up badass. She raised a strong and impressive son, Frank Longbottom, who went on to be a highly respected Auror. She wasn't as impressed with her grandson for most of the series, but once he started to come into his own, she swelled with pride about Neville. Neville fighting back at Hogwarts made the Death Eaters try to punish Neville, and they did so by sending a highly trained Auror, John Dawlish, to capture Augusta. Dawlish did not know what he was getting himself into though. She took this highly trained Auror out and hurt him so badly that he ended up in St. Mungo's hospital. She then went on the run and returned to her grandson's side as they kicked ass in the Battle of Hogwarts together. She is definitely a character who doesn't get the attention she deserves. There are times that all of us don't get the attention we might want, but one of the best ways to make you stand out is wearing certain fragrances that can boost your confidence. This week I've been using the scents Anthony by Anthony Black and Scandalwood by Heretic thanks to the services of Scentbird. They offer a monthly subscription that lets you explore over 900 authentic designer and niche fragrances. Each month you receive an 8ml vial providing about 120 sprays, plenty to test how a scent works for you in various situations. I used Anthony Black by Anthony when I went to an engagement party, and everyone was telling me how much they loved the scent I was wearing. The combination of apple and amberwood gave it a very elegant smell that was perfect for the occasion. And I wore Scandalwood by Heretic for date night with my wife, and she loved the mixture of Atlas Cedar and Bulgarian Rose. I've also been traveling a lot recently, and the smaller Scentbird vials make it super easy to pack. I just throw them in my bag and it doesn't take up too much room. With Scentbird, you can change your fragrance every month, avoiding the commitment and cost of full-size pricey bottles that can range from $300 to $500. I recommend you test different scents for different occasions as well as for different outfits, because sometimes these fragrances can enhance your style. If you want to try this for yourself, there's a special deal going on right now. You can get 55% off your first month, and the first month is only $8.97, and your next month will only be $17.95. You can get 55% off your first month when you use my code MOVIE55 or scan the QR code on the screen. Again, that's MOVIE55 for 55% off your first month or scan the QR code. Now, back to the show.
Let's finish this the way we started.
Up next, we have Filius Flitwick. I feel like Flitwick is always forgotten, but he, like Augusta, is a badass. This half goblin, half human was a master duelist, and he was so good that he earned the title of Dueling Champion. He might be small, but he is one of the most powerful wizards in a duel. And during the final battle of Hogwarts, Flitwick took on the likes of Snape, Yaxley, and Antonin Dolohov, who Flitwick destroyed. Dolohov literally fell to the ground with a loud scream, and he might have died there, but we don't know. I hate to say it, but Flitwick is most likely underestimated because of his small stature, but don't be fooled, that small stature could take you any day of the week.
You idiot!
Next we have Sirius Black's brother, Regulus Black. Now this one is an underrated character not with fans, because they have sensationalized him, but I'm saying he is an underrated character to the characters in the novels. Regulus is an unsung hero that nobody in the series knows about. Sirius even said that Regulus was so unimportant that the Dark Lord did not even finish him off on his own. He had somebody else do it. However, Regulus is one of the bravest characters in the entire series, but nobody knew this. He somehow figured out that Voldemort had a Horcrux before anybody else, which in itself is absolutely insane. On top of that, and most of all, he then gave his life to try and stop the most terrifying tyrant of all time. It was only when Kreacher told the trio about him that anyone knew what he had actually done. And even then, I feel like the trio was just like, oh, so that's RIB, and just never talked about how brave what he did was. They just kind of skipped over it. I actually went back to the book to see if they ever mentioned it again, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione never do so. If I heard this story, I would be like, holy crap, this guy needs to be celebrated. He needs a statue. He needs something. And the crazy thing is that Harry told everyone about Snape after the battle, but I would argue that what Regulus did far surpasses anything that Snape did. Not telling anybody else what they learned was honestly kind of messed up of the trio.
This is completely mental.
Next up is Fleur Delacour. The movies might have done Fleur an injustice. They never mentioned that she was a quarter Vila, her grandmother being a full Vila. Vila are human-like creatures that are irresistible to men. Men are put under a hypnotic-like spell that would make them think that the Vila in front of them was the only thing that mattered. This meant that Fleur was seen as irresistibly attractive, hence why Ron screamed at her when asking her to the Yule Ball.
Just all slipped out.
Actually, he sort of screamed at her. It was a bit frightening.
But even more, Fleur is part of one of the best romantic relationships in the entire series, and it's a couple that I think is very underrated. I'm of course speaking of Bill and Fleur. When they first started dating, Mrs. Weasley greatly disliked Fleur, thinking that she was incredibly shallow given the fact that she cared about her looks so much. But at the end of the Half-Blood Prince, Bill was attacked by Greyback, and this left his face mauled and unrecognizable. As Molly looked down at her mangled son's face, she said that he was going to get married. This led to Fleur putting Mrs. Weasley in her place though, asking what made her think Bill would not want to marry her anymore. This shocked Molly because it proved that Fleur was not at all shallow, but actually quite the opposite. She proved that she didn't care about Bill's looks, she cared about the man that he was on the inside. The two women then hugged each other, and Fleur went on to marry the love of her life. Fleur has a character arc that I think deserves much more recognition from fans than it gets.
You're the juicy news.
Next up is Crookshanks.
Looks more like a pig with hair, if you ask me.
Crookshanks was the hero of the Prisoner of Azkaban. He spent all of the third book working with Sirius while he was in his dog form, and helping him go after Peter Pettigrew, or Wormtail, while he was in his rat form. Crookshanks not only attacked Pettigrew several times, not caring that this made him look like the villain, but he also hilariously stole the passwords for Sirius to get into Gryffindor Tower. Poor Neville.
Dismally foolish person wrote down the passwords and then proceeded to lose them. Is it always going to be you, Longbottom?
I'm afraid so, Mom.
And on top of that, he protected Sirius when Harry went after him. I feel like nobody would ever focus on a cat, but I'm trying to change that because he deserves more recognition.
Hermione, I hate your cat.
Bad Crookshanks.
Next up is Kingsley Shacklebolt.
Who said that?
Kingsley is one of the most powerful characters in the series, not to mention possibly the greatest Auror while employed at the Ministry. After Moody retired, of course. Nobody was ever on Moody's level. Kingsley was incredibly smart though. He was able to blend in with Muggles better than pretty much any witch or wizard in the series. He went undercover working for the Muggle Prime Minister, and the Minister said he was the best worker he'd ever had, and was shocked to find out that he wasn't a Muggle. And possibly the craziest part about him blending in with Muggles was the fact that even Vernon Dursley, the man that hated witches and wizards possibly more than anybody else, actually liked Kingsley and requested Kingsley specifically to protect them. That's a pretty crazy statement. Kingsley was also in charge of the hunt for Sirius Black, and actually sent the Ministry to the opposite side of the country to ensure that Sirius was not caught, which I think is pretty funny. Kingsley absolutely deserves more credit than he gets. Up next is Barty Crouch Jr. Barty Jr. deserved a freaking Oscar for his performances throughout his character arc. He first put on a masterful performance in court as he cried and pleaded with his father, saying that he was innocent. And this performance was so good that it made most of the Wizarding world believe that he was innocent and ruined his dad's reputation when he sent him to Azkaban anyway. Meanwhile, he just carried out one of the most monstrous attacks, helping torture Alice and Frank Longbottom into madness. Then he disguised himself as Mad-Eye Moody and actually fooled Dumbledore, one of the smartest wizards to ever live. And when you remember the fact that Moody and Dumbledore had been friends for years and were actually very close, this makes Barty's performance even more remarkable, never tipping Dumbledore off all year that he wasn't his good friend.
I'm here because Dumbledore asked me. End of story. Goodbye, the end.
Barty Jr. is also underrated because he's one of the most insane, sadistic characters, which I feel like nobody ever talks about. Not only did he torture Frank and Alice Longbottom, but he also murdered his father without a second thought, transfigured his body into a singular dog bone, and buried it outside of Hagrid's hut. That's next level psychopath stuff.
Oh yeah.
And if that wasn't enough, he was also one of the best teachers Harry ever had, and he was the reason that Harry wanted to be an Auror. Barty Jr. disguised as Mad-Eye mentioned that that's what he should do for a living, and that stuck with Harry so much that that was his ultimate career.
Excellent. Really excellent.
People need to talk more about Barty Crouch Jr. because he is severely underrated. And finally, we have Fenrir Greyback. Greyback is another character that just isn't talked about enough, which is wild because he's a freaking menace.
He's got a point, you know.
As I said earlier, he was the one who mangled Bill Weasley's face, making him unrecognizable, showing how vicious he can be.
You're a little scary sometimes.
He also has a whole character arc that just doesn't ever get spoken of, which is the fact that he had created an entire army of werewolves underground, and he planned to use them to take over the Wizarding World, including taking down Voldemort and his Death Eaters, which takes a lot of balls. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, he never got the chance to do this following the Battle of Hogwarts. And we're not finished. Greyback is also the one that bit Remus Lupin, all because his dad Lyle Lupin pissed Greyback off during his trial. And this is something that Greyback did on the regular. He did it so much that the Death Eaters, including Malfoy and the Half-Blood Prince, literally threatened people, saying that they would send Greyback after them and their families if they didn't comply. Then his character gets even more wild, because he turned into a literal cannibal, biting people when he wasn't even in his werewolf form.
Excuse me, I have to go and vomit.
He might be just as bad as Voldemort, and nobody gives him credit for this. But that's who I think is underrated. Let me know in the comments below if you can think of any other characters in the series that you think are underrated as well. Thank you again to Scentbird for sponsoring this video. Just to remind you, you can get 55% off your first month and get your first month for only $8.97 and your next month for only $17.95 when you use my code MOVIE55 or scan the QR code on the screen. If you like this video, I have a bunch of others just like it, like this one where I spent 6 months researching Harry Potter fanfiction, which is a video that I'm really proud of. That's all I have for you guys today though. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.